Are you struggling in your relationship with your teen or with your kids? Are you at an impasse and you don't know how to save this relationship so that moving forward you can be closer together? I am going to share with you today the key that can save all your relationships. Hi, I'm Marcy Amaro, and I'm here to empower you with the tools and strategies that can help you design a family and a life that is set for success. Today I want to talk about a key that will unlock the door to any relationship in which you might feel stuck. But particularly I want to focus it around your relationship with your teens and your kids. That key that can unlock the door is awareness. What do I mean by awareness? It's making sure that you are in tune with what is truly going on around you. It's trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes and trying to understand what they might be feeling, thinking, or going through. It's making sure that you step back from your own agenda, from your own goals, or from your own desires long enough to understand what the other person's goals, desires, or dreams might be. In working with teens in particular, but with kids, especially kids who are going through any kind of transition, the first thing is to shift from thinking that, oh, it's a phase and it's going to pass, to understanding that it is a stage that needs to be mastered, that it is a process that needs to be handled and walked through. What do I mean by that? It happens a lot with kids who are in their terrible twos, quote unquote. It happens a lot with kids who shift from 5th grade to 6th grade or from elementary to middle school. And it definitely happens as kids enter their teenage years and they go through all these transitions and all these changes. What tends to happen is we think, oh, it's a phase, it'll pass. And because we think that it is a phase, we just let things slide. We let things go. We let things be. And we don't become involved in the process. So thinking it's a phase, it's not being aware of what they might be going through. If you can again step back for a second and think, okay, if I stop thinking that it's a phase that is going to pass on its own, and I start thinking that it's a stage where I can help my kid learn some new skills, where I can coach him or her through a process where they can arrive at the other end of this stage better for it, having grown, having developed new techniques and skills and strategies. How will I approach it? I can stop thinking that I need to let it be, and I can start wondering, what might he or she be thinking and feeling? What might be causing them to act or react in this way? What could they be trying to tell me through their actions that they can't tell me through their words? If I was in their position, what would I be feeling? Maybe even think back when I was his or her age. Did I go through something similar to what they're going through, and what did I do in that process? And again, stop thinking that it's just a phase that you're going to outgrow one day, and start thinking that it's a stage in which you can work together to master the skills necessary to arrive at the other end stronger, better, and closer because of it. The second part of awareness is understanding that your kid is not you. And I know that that sounds like obvious, like duh, of course, Marcy, I know my kid is not me. But here's two things that we do that say otherwise. The first one is we fall into what one of my mentors, Brad Cooper, calls BLM, or the Be Like Me syndrome. So the first thing we do that tells us, all of us, that we don't always realize that our kids are not us, is we expect them to be exactly like us. We want them to respond, act, and do things the way we do them. If you don't believe me, ask yourself, have you ever looked at your kid do something and asked yourself, where does he or she get that from? That's because there's an anticipation in our minds that because they came from us, because we raised them, and because they have our genes and our DNA, they're going to act in similar ways to the way we act. But what we fail to recognize when we do that is that they are individuals, they are not us, and they will react, respond, and manage situations in ways that are sometimes completely opposite to the way we would handle them. And that has to be okay with us as long as they're not in danger. We have to be able to give them space to test their own way of handling and managing things. Of course, all the while coaching them towards potentially better resolutions in the end, but giving them the space to use their talents, their abilities, their personalities, and their strengths in order to manage situations. Now, on the flip side of that coin, the other way I know that most of us forget at times that our kids are not us is because the kids that are most like us are the ones that aggravate us the most. Have you ever noticed that? Have you? Have you ever noticed that? I know I have. Why is that? Because oftentimes we get frustrated and angry and just overwhelmed with our kids' behavior when we see reflected in them those things that we dislike about ourselves. So we look at our kids and we see them making the same mistakes that we once made, or acting in ways that we act ourselves but that we don't really like the outcome. And we get all frustrated and we get angry and we lash out and we start this whole interaction with our kids that is not healthy because we want to shake out of them that behavior that we wish we could shake out of ourselves. But see, here's the kicker. In the world we live in, a lot of the things that we were taught were not beneficial are going to be the things that are going to propel our kids to success. So we need to stop for a second and ask, okay, is this behavior really detrimental or damaging to our kids? Or is it just that I don't like it in myself, so I don't want to see it in them? Am I taking the time to really see what the consequences might be and, again, put myself in their shoes and see why they might be acting this way? Have I had a conversation with them about how they feel about it? Maybe it's something they love, even though we dislike it in ourselves. So stop thinking that your kid is you. Stop doing these two things that tell the world and your kid, but that you might not be aware of, that you expect them to be exactly like you. Because guess what? They're not. So as we wrap this up, and we enter into the last way that we can be aware in order to build and save our relationship, particularly with our teens, I would love to invite you to subscribe to my channel. I post new content at least twice a week, and I am here to give you and empower you with tools and strategies that will help you design a family and a life that is set for success. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of awareness is influence. Now, I conducted a survey with the parents that I know, and there was a repeated source of worry. There was this pattern that emerged in the parents that I asked, and my question was, what is it that concerns you the most in terms of your kids growing and becoming teenagers, or your kids being teenagers and being successful? And the pattern, the recurring theme was, we are afraid of outside influences. We are afraid of outside influences. So the peer pressure that drives a kid to drugs, or the television shows that feed nothing but sex and violence into our kids' minds, and they eventually end up engaging in this unsafe behavior, or the neighbor or the friend that, I don't know, introduces vaping to my kid. Those types of influences are at the forefront of most parents' minds and at the top of their list of worries. And I'm not blaming them. That's me too. But here's the irony of it all. Study after study shows that parents are still the #1 influencers in their kids' lives, even as they enter the teenage years and beyond. So, stop thinking that you have no influence over your kid, and start understanding that your kid needs you to still be a relevant, consistent, present part of their lives, and that presence, it's what is going to counteract most of the outside influences. Are there things that are still going to happen? Yes. But the more present you are, the more able you will be to be there to help them through those things that happen. And believe it or not, your influence will still count. See, there's this really sad statistic that says that as kids enter into teenage years, they spend an average of 21 minutes per day with their parents. 21 minutes! That's it! And I'm not even talking about quality 21 minutes, just 21 minutes out of 24 hours. That is devastating. So make sure you're present in your kid's life, because your influence still counts and they still need you. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Make sure that you are commenting below about your relationship with your teens and your kids. Have you experienced any of the cues that I gave you that show a little bit of lack of awareness? How do you think you might improve your awareness with your kids? And how do you think you can maybe talk to your kids about ways in which they can be more aware about how you feel? Because that's part of it too. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave your comments. I look forward to reading all of them, and I will see you on the next video.